Kenyans will have to pay up to 25.3 billion as penalties accrued due to delays in settling pending bills in the national government. In the full year report, Nyakango revealed that the 25.3 billion interest on top of the principal pending bills amount will be shouldered by the taxpayer due to failure by Treasury to clear the bills. Now, in the 2024-2025 financial year report, the pending bills headache is a key point of focus, with the COB saying the pending bills increased by 9 billion in just 12 months. And the Davis Churchill Ministry of Roads and Transport is the most notorious among government ministries and state departments with the highest penalties to settle. Now, the ministry is to pay penalties amounting to 21.3 billion on top of its original pending bills of 121.8 billion Kenyan shillings. Now, the Kenya Roads Authority, KERA, Kenya National Highways Authority, KENHA, and Kenya Urban Roads Authority, KURA, have all accrued billions of shillings as penalties. Now, the Ministry of Energy has accrued penalties amounting to 1 billion through its departments, the National Oil Corporation of Kenya and the Kenya Electricity Generating Company, Kenyan. Now, the Ministry of Health has pending bills, penalties, interest amounting to 1.5 billion, and the Kenya Medical Research Institute, KEMRI, and the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, Kenyatta National Hospital, Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, as well as Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital add to the list of institutions with pending bills in the Health Ministry that all suppliers a total of 54 billion Kenyan shillings. Now, the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, through its department, Tanathi Water Works Development Agency, has accrued penalties amounting to 1.2 billion, and the accumulations of pending bills restrains business cash flow, resulting in liquidity constraints, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises, as they have to endure the long wait for overdue payments. Now, according to Nyakango, the pending bills menace has caused a scale back of operations, layoffs of workers, and shutdowns of institutions affected. Here are the full details to the story. Well, from the pending bills menace now to the insecurity menace in the capital. Interior Cabinet Secretary Murkomen orders crackdown amid muggings in Nairobi CBD. And the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has ordered a major crackdown on muggings in Nairobi, directing security agencies to intensify operations against criminal gangs targeting unsuspecting residents. Now, the CS said the government is concerned about the surge in violent robberies, many linked to groups opposing as street children. Now, Kenyans have been taking to social media to share harrowing experiences at the hands of juvenile delinquents, saying they have been followed, robbed in broad daylight, and in some cases threatened with knives or harassed in shocking ways. And as per the directive, at least 80 have been arrested so far. And here are the full details to the story.
Napata kuna hospitali fulani imetoka na huko inakuja inarusha masindano hapa zikiwa boxed hapa kwa ile ni. So napata vijana machokora fulani wakipita hapa wanapata wase wametoka pale fabu kutei. Msana kutishia na mimi pia nimetishiwa na.
Last week Thursday kitu saa 2 hivi walikuja hapa, kuna mama fulani anauzia mafuta ndege, walikuja hapa kuna mafuta ndege, wakaanza kuzua vurugu. Mimi nikaona wananiharibia kazi yangu, nikaenda kwa zuia, wakaamua kunivamia, wakanipiga mpaka mkono, nikaibiwa na simu.
Hii alama unaona hii ni kisu hii. Hii kisu ilikuwa inindunge hapa hii. Mungu akasaidia ikakata hapa. Ilikuwa mambo ya last week ile nyingine. Ukijaribu kungangana unaona? Ndio hiyo kisu. Uko na visu? Uko na visu. Utafanya aje? Unapora pesa yako na simu.
Street children so walikuwa okora. So akanisimamisha. Ananiambia, "Hey, rada youth. Hiyo nini umebeba hapo?" Wakaanza kunishikashika mfuko. Jamaa mmoja akasikia simu. Nikaona hapa mambo itaharibika. Like jamaa akaambia Omar rafiki yake watoe kisu. Mwingine akaanza kumwambia, "Ama tumpake mafi."
Watu kama sisi tunatoa kazi usiku, unahofia maisha yako. Ukienda kufika kwa gate, kabla ufungue gate, unasikia watu wamekutokea. Around saa 10 usiku hata wala mama anaenda soko wako na shida.
And even these marking issues, as I've told you, part of it is perpetrated by so-called street children, organizing themselves in small groups with knives sometimes and attacking and suspecting citizens. That is a daily responsibility of the OCS in the police station. That's what I was telling the OCSs today. Shouldn't wait for, unless a very unique challenge that has come out of a particular issue. But things like theft, muggings, that is a daily responsibility of the police officers within the area.
Unapata serikali ikikuja haishiki hawa waizi. Inakuja na tushika si watu tunajitafutia. So tunafeel vibaya sana unapata serikali si ndio deal na sisi baada ya kudili na hawa waizi.
And welcome back from that story. Now to Gachagua criticizes Murkomen over Mandera security claims. And these are the full details to the story. And former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has criticized the Interior Cabinet Secretary's claim that there are no Jubaland forces in Mandera County. Speaking at the burial of Grace Wanjira, sister to DCP aspirant Njathi in Kiru Ward, Gachagua said his position hasn't changed, insisting that residents have been illegally displaced by foreign forces operating in the area. And he added that should have been closed and people are still dying due to ongoing clashes between Somali and Jubaland forces. Gachagua urged Mandera leaders to defend the people and promised to keep fighting for the safety and rights of residents against what he called external threats. Here are the full details to the story.
Na wewe waziri wa usalama unashindana na governor. Governor ako kwa ground. Governor anasema iko magaidi Kenya. Wananchi wanasema iko magaidi Kenya. Saa hii waziri wa usalama anasema ati lazima wafanye uchunguzi. Sasa uchunguzi gani na hiyo watu wamekuwa hapo mwezi mbili? Hata waziri wa usalama hana habari hii watu iko Kenya. Na mimi nilisema iko shida kwa Mandera ya usalama na mambo ya magaidi. Wakanipigia kelele. Hata wakasema ati nishikwe nikirudi. Sasa ile nilisema kila mtu anasema namna hiyo. Sisi tutawatetea. Mimi nikiwa kiongozi wa Kenya nitamtetea nyinyi kwa sababu shule imefungwa, iko hali ya taharuki na lazima tutetee watu ya Mandera. Lazima hawa askari waondoke Kenya warudi kwao.
From Gachagua now to Mandera residents allege yet again the presence of Jubaland forces as the government continues to deny. Now, with the security situation in the north, residents of Mandera staged protests over the presence of Jubaland forces at Border 1 crossing point, complaining that it has disrupted learning, transport and farming activities. Now, the aggrieved community is calling for a complete withdrawal of the foreign troops from their residential areas. However, the deputy chief at Border 1 says there is relative calm in the area, allowing learning and daily activities to continue uninterrupted. Here, full details to the story.
Sasa kudogo bandi ya Bipwan, iko kudogo malalamiko iko. Sasa watu wa Jubaland iko ndani huko shamba. Sisi lalamika. Sisi hatuna silaha ya kujilinda. Maisha yetu iko hatarini.
As they are fighting the bullets that lost from where it is supposed to be, might land on Mandera town,
Tumeongea kutosha, tumesema kila kitu. Serikali hataki kusikia watu ya BB1, watu ya Mandera County.
Lakini hakuna policy ya Kenya ya kusema tutakuwa na askari ya Somalia ama whether regional ama ni national ambayo itafanyia mambo ya vita upande wa Kenya.
Kwa kabisa upande wa usalama tuko salama. Hakuna tension ya insecurity kwa border point 1.
And away from that, now to the last story of the day. President William Ruto calls for immediate hiring of UHC staff on permanent pensionable terms. And President William Ruto has called for the immediate absorption of more than 7,500 universal health coverage workers into permanent and pensionable terms. In what appears to be disagreement with a deal reached between the Ministry of Health and the Council of Governors to retain the workers on SRC salary scale until June next year, the President urged the two levels of government to end the impasse and expedite the process. President Ruto made the announcement on Thursday in Mombasa, where he also issued employment letters to some of the workers. And his orders contradicts an agreement between the Ministry of Health and the COG that would have delayed absorption on the permanent and pension terms until June next year. But UHC workers who have downed their tools several times in the last year had pressed for immediate conversion and payment of gratuities. Here are the full details to this story.
Hawa wafanyikazi tunataka kuwatoa katika utendakazi wa kandarasi tuwafanye permanent and pensionable. Mimi nataka niulize counties, ndugu zangu county governments, hawa wafanyikazi kuanzia mwezi huu wa 9 tuwaweke katika mpango wa permanent and pensionable because we have the resources to do it. The heroes of universal health, the men and women who have made it possible for us to register citizens in SHA, the people who have participated by going to every home and every village in the morning, in the evening, are the CHPs.
Because when you close a facility, people suffer. It's not the people who make the mistake that suffer. It is the people that need services. So we are going to take that position, sort out the people who have caused problems, deal with them, but let facilities operate.
These are the stories that are making headlines in the dailies. We started off with the Standard. A deceitful spending is a headlining story in the Standard this morning. Now, in an attempt to circumvent scrutiny, the government has, in select instances, spent taxpayers' money without parliamentary approval, exploiting a provision in the Constitution that allows the Treasury to spend without House approval only on emergencies such as natural calamities. However, the government has kept using funds not cleared by Parliament in total disregard for best practice in budget management, which smacks of deceit as Mwananchi struggles under the weight of high taxes. Now, this is a story that you'll find on pages 4 of the Daily Standard. The President is pictured. The House of Parliament is also pictured, and the elusive expert John Mbadi is also pictured in the Standard this morning. Away from that, Raila loses oversight role to new leaders. And with vibrant youth, political players and civil society have filled the vacuum left by the opposition after joining so-called broad-based government. So-called, all right? That is a story that you'll find on page 6 of the Standard. And Kenyan'S bank on Kasarani fireworks. Kenyan'S bank on Kasarani fireworks. What was the fireworks about? Grab yourself a copy to read about that story in the sports section on page 32 of the Standard. Of course, every other Friday, Your entertaining pulse will be in the Standard for your entertainment as they usher in the weekend in style. All right, grab yourself a copy to get to enjoy that as well. Now from the Standard now to the Daily Nation. The Daily Nation this morning, who failed them is a big question. And for the parents, time has stood still. Every memory of Hillside and Russia Academy bound into the horror of screams that filled the air on that fateful night of September 5th, 2024. Now, a year later, authorities have no answers for how the school fire that killed their 21 children happened and why no one has been held to account. That story you'll find on pages 4 and 5 of The Nation this morning. Quite devastating indeed. And Mr. David Kenyan, the proprietor of the school, declined to comment, instead referring Nation to the Ministry of Education. As well, officers from the government pathologist's office walk outside Hillside and Russia Academy in Kieni, Nyeri County on September 7th, 2024. That is a description of the picture that is describing the location of where the fire was, where the fire happened. But also, there is a picture of caskets of the young souls that were lost in that dreadful fire. Among other stories in The Nation, West Pokot nurse wins a global award. Luke Kenyan, all right, I have to steady myself for this one. Luke Kenyan'S, 51, a nurse at a health center in West Pokot, has been honored for his efforts in combating a neglected tropical disease that nearly killed him as a teenager. He received the award at a conference in Finland. That is a story that you'll find on page 3 of The Nation this morning. And the gangs backed by powerful figures evade 400 acres in Kakuzi. That is on page 10, right? Robbery in broad daylight. And shock of 1,000 public schools with less than 10 learners each. That is a story that you'll find on page 8 of the Daily Nation this morning. And of course, The Nation as well, they have The Voice, the pullout. You will find every other Friday in The Nation. Invisible Warriors is what they are covering in The Voice this morning. And that sums up about the dailies and what they are saying this morning as we go into the weekend. Let us come back after the break as we keep you up to speed about the match that is going to be played tonight at Kasarani Stadium, that is in the World Cup qualifications, but as well some of the match highlights that are going to happen over the weekend, the entire weekend, and others that were played yesterday in the same competition, World Cup qualifiers.